Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's forum. My name is Mitch Rave. I serve as the Vice President of Public Policy of the Sioux Falls Chamber of Commerce. Tonight, we are pleased to partner with the League of Women Voters to bring you the Sioux Falls School Board Candidate Forum, featuring 5 candidates vying for 2 seats on the board. Thank you to Sioux Falls School District for allowing us to use IPC tonight so we can hear from these wonderful candidates. We'll kick off the forum with the candidates shortly, but first I want to introduce our moderator for this evening's event, Melanie Bliss, representing the League of Women Voters. Melanie served 6 years as a member of this school board. She remains active as a volunteer in our community with the League, and we want to thank you, Melanie, for moderating, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mitch. I will begin by explaining the format of this forum. First, questions from the audience are welcome and encouraged. Please write your question on the note cards provided and give it to a volunteer. If you're a volunteer runner, would you raise your hand? And they'll see your hand and they'll come and pick it up. The League of Women Voters will sort these questions and determine that they address issues pertinent to the role of a Sioux Falls School Board member. The volunteers may also elect to combine or rephrase questions on the same topic, like they've done that they brought up to me. There are stacks here already. Only written question cards will be accepted. No clapping is allowed and no signs can be displayed. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for a self-introduction. After that, we will transition to the Q&A portion of the event. All candidates will have the opportunity to respond to each question and will have 90 seconds for their response. There will be no rebuttal time. We also wish that you do not go over your time limits. The timers are in the front row and they have signs that say 30 seconds and the red one says stop. Okay. Now, if you don't, I have 2 instruments to use. One of them they gave me is a gavel. Ooh. The other one is my League of Women Voters pen, which I've had for many, many years. At the end of the forum, there will be 2 minutes for closing comments. We'll start with introductions on my far left with Bobbie Tibbetts.
Is my time going? Am I good? Good evening. My name is Bobbie Tibbetts. I'm excited to be here. My husband, Luke, and I have 2 kids, Will and Ryan, and all 3 of them are here this evening. Our kids are currently in public schools, so I have a vested interest in ensuring that the schools provide the best education and the best opportunities possible for my kids, but all kids. I'm not going to take part in meetings and discuss broadly the impact of the agenda items. As a mom, we live it on the daily. Our kids utilize the school bus, they eat school lunches, they sit in the classrooms, and they experience the extreme behavior issues that happen. As I said, we live this every single day. So the decisions made at the board level impact my family. I'm dedicated to digging into issues, listening to all perspectives, learning, and ultimately leading by making informed decisions. I will tell you, even in this short campaign push, I've had the incredible opportunity of connecting with different principals, different teachers, digging in to learn our biggest issues, which I know that we're gonna touch on. I've also had the opportunity of sitting down with Todd Veek. Thank you for entertaining the ask and going over the budget, and I've learned so much in that process. I'm also involved. I've been a mentor for the last 3 years at Memorial, most recently, and then I lead a power lunch with 8th graders once a month. I'm already invested, as I said, and I want to take my interest and my commitment to the next level. I want people to know that I care about kids. I'm committed to rolling my sleeves up, and I want to hear different perspectives. I want to be part of the solutions. We have an incredible school system already, and I'm looking forward to doing my part to make it even better.
Gail Swenson.
Good evening. My name is Gail Swenson, and I'm one of the 5 candidates you see here running for a position on the Sioux Falls School Board. I'd like to thank our co-sponsors of the event, the Sioux Falls League of Women Voters, and the Greater Sioux Falls Chamber of Commerce. It's vital that our community gets to know us as candidates, and I think it's really important that we're here tonight. So I want to thank all of you who are here in person. I want to thank all of you who are listening at home. And I want to thank our sponsors for making this happen for our parents and our community. I'd also like to thank my colleagues sitting at the table here tonight. You know, it takes commitment to want to be a public servant. And so I thank you very much for making that commitment and being able to accept the challenge to run for public office. So thank you all very much. I knew when I was a junior in high school that I wanted to be a teacher. And after graduating with my bachelor's degree from FCSU, I began a 41-year career in public education. I worked in a few school districts, but I spent the majority of my time here, that's 23 years, in the Sioux Falls School District. I came in 1991 when Roosevelt High School opened. In fact, I spent 6 years of my career here working as a district administrator in this building as a supervisor of homeless and Indian education. I left the Sioux Falls School District to become a superintendent, and I served in 2 districts before retiring in July of 2021. I believe that my experience in and out of the classroom makes me uniquely qualified to be a school board member. It'd be interesting to know how many hours I've spent at school board meetings being a visitor and then just sitting at board tables. So I'm hoping tonight you're going to have the opportunity to discover the qualifications that I would bring to this position as a board member in Sioux Falls. So thank you all for coming, and thank you to the sponsors and to my colleagues.
Marc Murren,
My name is Marc Murren. I'm a longtime Sioux Falls.
I think you need to.
Turn that on. I sit in this chair and board.
Well, you should go.
I
Be
should.
closer to it.
Watch it with that pen.
Yes.
So anyway, I'll start over. But I grew up here. My dad worked at John Morrell's like all my neighbors. My parents were lifelong members of the Sioux Falls community. I went to Cleveland, Whittier, and Sioux Falls, Lincoln. And there I met a gal that her dad was a coach there. His name was Rich Greeno. And my wife, Luann, was a teacher for 34 years. So teaching's kind of been our deal. I ran for the school board. I got involved when the boundary dispute was going on, and I watched it from afar for 9 months, and then it got a last minute thing, and I got involved. And the people from the west side of town, actually, even though I coached on the east side, approached me about running for the board. So I did run for the board, and the reasons I did is I care about kids. For 45 years now, including my school board time, pretty much have worked with and for kids. And that's what I'm about. I believe in public education. We're getting slapped around a little bit, but public education has been excellent for our nation and our country. I believe all kids should have an equal opportunity for success. I believe the power of relationships does wonderful things for people. And I'm happy to be on the board. I'm gonna run again, and if you get behind me, I'll have a better chance, but I'm excited. I like working with the board. I like being on the board, and I'm still learning stuff on the board. So thank you.
Pat Starr.
Yes, good evening. Thank you. Before we go too far tonight, the key thing for me tonight is going to be third graders. And I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about third graders as part of my presentation tonight. So what I wanted to do, everyone asks why I'm running for the Sioux Falls School Board and why it's important to me. And I think it can best be done in a story. My teenage daughter tells me 2 things all the time. 1, Dad, you're not funny. And 2, Dad, your stories are too long. So I'm going to get this in 2 minutes everything that I have to get it done. About a month ago, I met with a high school SRO officer at one of our high schools. And we talked about what he sees in the hallways, because I'm a big believer in the people who do the day-to-day work in our schools are the ones that have a true idea and a true vision of what's happening. Our teachers, our aides, and EAs and all the way down with the support staff that goes on. So anyway, his story to me was, he had a 15-year-old young lady come to him and said, "Sir, I used meth at a party 2 weeks ago. I've used it twice since. Where do I go for help?" And he looked at me and he said, "Pat, I don't know what to do. I didn't know what to help her. You know, I can't charge her with ingestion," which is a whole nother long story in our state of charging people for ingesting. But we didn't outfit him with the resources to move forward. But I would challenge every one of us in this room tonight, what would you do if a 15-year-old high school freshman came to you and said, "I need help with meth. I need help with, I'm not feeling well, I'm not strong." Where do we send them for help? I don't think as a parent, I had a checkup with my doctor. I asked my doctor, where does he go? Where does this resource officer go? Where do the kids go? And so if we're not available to take care of our kids in our district, she gave me a stop. I missed the 30. I'm sorry, I didn't get it in the time. So anyway, we'll continue on with where the third graders fit in this story.
Okay, Stuart?
Okay. I'm a retired teacher, but occasionally I substitute in the Sioux Falls School District. I heard a teacher here say, "I don't like this any more than you do, but we have to do it." And those are the kind of mandates that tie the teachers up in knots that I saw in New York, and I realized what's coming here. I've had very good success in my teaching using the science of reading. It's based on Krashen's input hypothesis. And I noticed that here we have 48% of our fourth graders are not proficient in reading. I think it's something I would really like to focus on. And I think that's tied to, a very large number of people not graduating, I think of the Native Americans. So I'm running because I saw that what the NEA and the UFT did to schools in New York City. They focused on treating problems rather than solving them. The bigger the problems got, the bigger the union got. Why would taxpayers want 5 school board members that are representing the union? The union, that would make the union negotiating with the union for the teachers' contracts. In New York City's problems got worse, property taxes went up, and the union danced all the way to the bank. The school board's job is to prepare young people for careers. The school board is supposed to be looking downrange. AI is coming like a giant tsunami. We have got to prepare our students for this. AI is going to impact every single child in our school system from K to 12, and yet the school board has been silent about this. How can they not see what is coming? Someone has to say something. That is why I'm running for the school board. I pray you hear the warning, and I hope you vote for me.
Thank you very much. The first question is about the board role. We'll start with Stuart on my right. What do you see as the primary role of a school board member?
To be a voice for the citizens here, the parents. Obviously, we have to understand what's going on in the school, but I've been very disturbed that there's some very negative things being said about people who are homeschooling and people who are in private school, and I think that's just outrageous. I think my job is to be a voice for everybody, and I think we need the entire community. This problem that's coming with artificial intelligence, homeschool is way ahead of us, and we're going to need their help to solve this.
Okay, Pat?
Yes, thank you. The real role of the board is to set policy, to be the forward thinkers for our community, to move forward of where our district is going to go. And it's the administrator's job to administer that policy that's set by the board. The board has done a good job with a long-range plan that sets the goals and opportunities for the future of our district. I think it needs to be updated, as all long-range plans continue to do. But I think that what we have to do as a board is remember that there isn't a one solution for everything that affects the community. different kids, different students respond in different ways. Teachers teach in different ways. Some of the best teachers, I think we can all remember some of our favorite teachers as we were growing up, and they were different because they appealed to my needs and what was important to me as a student. I don't want to make his head get too big, but I believe Mr. Murren was one of my best instructors that I had. And I remember like it was yesterday, I think I beat him once in wrestling practice. He'll remind you of all the hundreds of times that I was counting lights. But it's important for the board to have, to set good policies so that there's moving forward for the district, but it also has to come from the bottom up as well, that the board has to listen to the teachers and the people who work in our schools, to listen to parents that want good things for their kids to be successful in the community. So it's kind of a two-way street where you have to work from the bottom up, but it also has to, the policy has to come directly from the board.
Coach?
Well, that was quite a deal, Pat.
You can pay me later.
Yeah. The reason I think policy is a good question for me, I'm on the policy committee here, a member of the board. So the policy that we develop comes from a whole team of people. It's a team of teachers, it's a team of administrators, and it's the board. And we also ask for input. Anytime we change policy, we have a meeting, it's put out there, and people can come and testify about policy. So I feel that we're very transparent about what we do in policy. We're a board of governance. That means we govern, okay? We don't get involved in the day-to-day tit and tat between teachers and whatever. That's an administrative job. When it gets to us, it's trouble. When it gets to us, it's a problem normally. So what we do is try to develop the best policy. We constantly review it. Anytime we write a curriculum, citizens are involved, teachers are involved, administrators are involved, and then we look at it and approve it. Not all policy is wonderful, not all policy is great, but hopefully it's policy that's focused on kids. And that's what my role is on the board. I want to talk about students, okay? I want policy that supports kids in their learning and their environment in school. So our policies are important. There's no question about it. But we take it very seriously, at least I do. So that's where I'm at in policy.
Gail Swenson?
Schools are here for the kids. Schools are here for teaching and learning. And we are here also to help our staff provide the best education we can for our students. Traditionally, the board's role is to handle policy, to deal with budget issues, and then any other operational issue that comes before the board. I was happy to hear Mr. Murren say that, as a former superintendent anyway, that the board doesn't get involved in the day-to-day ticky-tack running of the schools, and that's true. And so the most important thing for the board is to be the guidance of the district, to put into place in policy what administrators and committees have followed as what they want to be the direction for the board. And so the board has a very specific role, and they are the representatives of the community, but they have to work as a team to provide that guidance, to provide the policy work, the budget work. As a district, we're going to be moving into some exciting areas of opening a new school and all that kind of thing, and the board is very involved in that work. So that's traditionally what a school board does.
Bobbie Tibbetts?
I'm a broken record in that the role of the board is to ensure policy. I believe that it's this seat and this role to be a voice and to be a resource, to be a liaison to the community. I think it's important that as board members, we are engaged in having active, respectful conversation and discussion at the board level so that we can have the best outcomes. I'm committing to this seat. I know that people reach out to board members, and our job is to give response, to listen. And that's what I'm bringing to this seat, is the ability to show leadership, but also to listen to the concerns and to work with my colleagues and administration and teachers to help land on the best outcomes.
Okay. The third question will be, what should be the role of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the district hiring policy? And we'll start this one with Pat Starr.
I think it's so important that it's what I was talking about earlier, that teachers look like their students, that they understand what their students are going through, and the district spending time searching out actively to find good teachers, but also find teachers that look like their students. I have a family of, between my kids and foster kids, all kinds of diversity in our household by the time we're done. So it's interesting to finding their needs. My daughter, one of the most important things when she transferred to Washington High School this year was being able to take a Lakota class. That was probably the deciding factor when she decided to attend Washington High School. To have those programs and things and reach kids where they're at is probably the most important thing that we can do as a district, and to continue to make sure our staff, whether it's Spanish immersion programs that reach kids, and all the way through the program. So equity and inclusion are key to what's going to make our community successful in the future. When you look at the number of kids and the makeup of our schools, we have to embrace that change. It's our future. And it's what our community is going to look like when we go forward. I see it in my neighborhood. Sunday nights is hot dog night at the Starr house. So all the kids in the neighborhood come over and I make them dinner usually. But we've had a great experience meeting our new Sudanese neighbors and their kids and how they fit in, and explaining what's happening in the district and how they get a chance to be involved and how important school is for them as well. So thank you.
We should always hire the best people. I'd say that first of all. But those things are important. One of the problems for us is we have very few of those applicants that we would consider minority, whatever. We don't get many. And I think that's unfortunate, because I'm sure there are a lot of good people out there, regardless of their race. They're excellent educators. So first of all, we hired the best that we can do. It's kind of an age-old problem. I know about 10 years ago when I was still in the district, they were outwardly recruiting, trying to get people to come. We just, I don't know why we don't get people in the district that are, want to teach in our whatever, that are minorities. It's important that the people we do get are very sensitive to culture, to people's culture, to people's feelings. It's important that they're all treated equally, all accepted, and all have equal opportunity to be successful in school. And that's our job, because to me, they're a student, okay? 30 seconds, I'm gonna quit now.
Okay. Gail Swenson.
When I came to the district in 1991, I know we were trying very hard to make sure that our teaching and staff force looked like our student body. I know the district is still trying in those efforts, and I know that we're failing in those efforts. It's a hard thing, because like Mark says, we do want to hire the best person, and we do want to hire people that look like our students. We don't need to hire any more people that look like me. Well, at least me, like 40 years younger me, okay? We don't need to do that anymore, okay? We need to hire good people, but we want to have that rich fabric in our school district that mirrors our community, which has grown so much. And we have so much great culture in Sioux Falls right now. I think that one of the things we tried was sort of a grow your own philosophy. And when I was supervisor of Indian education, we really stressed among our staff that, hey, when you've got kids that really seem to like excuse me, teaching and learning, boy, let's try to convince them that they'd be awesome teachers. And they would be awesome teachers. And the kids that are awesome students also want to be awesome other things. You know, education isn't the most inviting career, I'm sorry to say. You know, we do such wonderful work, and I just feel bad that it's not that inviting career. I wish our staff looked more like our student body. We'll try to continue to do that. We want to have the best people we can in our schools, and we'll continue to try to become more diverse.
Bobbie Tibbetts?
The answer to that is we're hiring the most qualified. I think where I'd like to focus the attention on is what we're doing to attract candidates of all background, and looking at those people that can bring that diversity to the table. But what are we doing to attract those people? And then ultimately so that they are understanding of all of the backgrounds within the school.
We'll start with Stuart.
I haven't gone.
Oh, Stuart, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was trying to start with you for next time.
I taught in Taiwan for 8 years, and the students I taught, what they wanted was someone that could teach them English. And I taught in Brooklyn for 10 years, and what my students wanted there was someone that could teach them earth science successfully. Let me tell you a story. When I was in Brooklyn, the principal was ripping into the entire science department during the annual review. And I heard about it in our meeting, and I had my review on Monday. So I went home, I pulled up all the data off of New York City concerning all the schools, I prepared graphs, I spent hours. I go into my meeting and I show her that the science department is performing better than any other department in our school, and it's probably showing the greatest improvement of all 350 schools in New York City. After that, she never hassled us again. The biggest problem I see with diversity is diversity of thought. When everybody's parroting the exact same thing, then that's the problem. Teaching requires a lot of creativity. We can't all be indoctrinated by this NEA and UFT doctrines that are just going to make us drones, and just what they want is success. You have 46% of the kids are in fourth grade are not proficient in reading. They want to learn how to read. That's why they're there. And 48% of the kids who are in the Native Americans, they're not graduating high school. They're coming to high school to graduate. That's what they want. So I don't really care what somebody looks like. I care about how they perform. I want to do statistical analysis to find out who our best performing teachers are and use them for professional development for the other teachers. Thank you.
The next question will start with Gail Swenson. Are the schools doing a good job providing equal opportunities for transgender children?
We're doing a good job of providing an education and opportunities for all kids, period.
That's my answer, is creating that environment that is safe and creates opportunities for every single student.
Stuart?
I taught in Brooklyn, and I taught obviously in other places. I never asked kids what their sexual preference was. I never asked kids these questions. I never asked them at all. I didn't care. So, and I don't really care, you know, if a kid wants me to call them this or that, I'll call them what they want. You treat people with respect. You treat people the way you want to be treated, and that's how it should be.
Okay, Pat Starr?
Yes, thank you. I think Stuart did a good job of saying that we want to treat people with respect. It's not right to bully somebody, whether they have big ears or glasses or they're trans or what they identify as. It's about educating kids and providing a safe environment so they have the ability to learn.
Mark?
For many of us that are my age, okay, that's something that we've come to deal with, okay? And I have all kinds of empathy for all students. So if someone's being bullied, if someone's being abused, if whatever, that's wrong. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter who it is, it's wrong. And that's something that a guy, a child of the 60s, had to figure out. Okay? I'm embarrassed at some of the things I did when I was a kid. And I don't want any kids to go through those things, regardless of what issue, what topic, whatever. So as a district, we have to be very mindful of our differentiated students. Okay? It's okay. It's okay. Those people sometimes I've heard have suicide rates 7 times higher than the average person. That's sad. And that's wrong. So for me, it's about loving kids, regardless of who they are, what they do or whatever. As long as they're here to learn, it's our job. Thank you.
Good, thank you. We're gonna have another broad one. And we'll start with, no, I'm picking on, it's been different places, right? But you guys just kind of overrode me on that one. So we will start the next question. You can all think about this. Should our school district support vouchers for students in private schools? Let's start with Mark.
Here's what I say about vouchers for schools. As long as those schools, when the door opens, lets the first person in, takes in special education students, takes in autistic kids, takes in kids that are in wheelchairs and tube fed, because that's a federal law. If you're going to take the money, then you're going to take the rest. That's my belief. Okay? You want the money? Then you're going to take the kids. They show up at your door, you take them in, just like we do. Anybody that shows up our door comes through the door, and we work with them. That's not the case in many areas of, I got to be careful because I'm getting steamed up. That's what I believe. If you're going to take voucher money from public education, then you're going to follow the same rules that public educators serve in public schools. You're not going to get to pick and choose. When they step into your door, you're going to take them in and you're going to educate them just like we do. Other than that, I better be quiet.
Pat Starr?
I was waiting to be at the end. So I've been fortunate, or my wife and I have been fortunate, that we have been the product of both public and private schools. We've followed our religion with some of our kids to be in the Catholic school systems in Sioux Falls. We have kids in the public school system. Our foster kids have been in both. We felt that it was necessary for them to be in a classroom that was smaller during COVID because they missed 2 years of, they had 2 years of in-home. We've had the opportunity to have kids in, be on IEPs and take AP classes at the same time. We've had kids who've had to receive, my son walks because of the physical therapy and occupational therapy that he received through the Sioux Falls School District while attending St. Lambert's School. We've been that classic mix of everything that's good about education. We're privileged and fortunate enough that we can provide that for our kids, and we made the sacrifice for our foster kids. There is a place in our community for private education, and there's certainly a place for good quality or high quality public education. Parents have that right to choose those things. But I totally agree that we have to fund public education first. When we fully fund public education, then we should do voucher programs. It's my responsibility as a parent, and my wife's and our families, to pay for a private education because we felt a religious upbringing for our children was important to us, because as kids, that's what we experienced. So again, there has to be that opportunity, both public and private. There shouldn't be a fight. The fight isn't about educating kids, it's about funding it. And so the main part of this question is vouchers. I've never supported voucher programs. I wouldn't support voucher programs in the future, and I wouldn't do it until we fully fund private or public education. I'll get the right parts together. So, thank you.
Okay, Stuart?
I homeschooled 3 children. 2 of them came from Taiwan after the 5th grade. Neither one spoke a word of English. If I'd put them straight into the public school where I was at, it would have been a disaster. I knew how to teach English. I'd already taught it 8 years when I was in Taiwan. I taught them on a shoestring budget. I had nothing. It would have been great if I had voucher money. But 3 years later, they went into the public high school. They both graduated as valedictorians from 2 different high schools. Nobody in that school knew that English was not their first language. Now, homeschool plays a role, and that's the way I feel. My youngest son, when he was 6 months old, was diagnosed with developmental problems. He got 3 therapists, and so I have a master's in special ed. I designed a program so that he could overcome the speech therapy and the physical therapy, the occupational therapy, by learning the violin. I also designed a program where he could overcome the physical therapy by taking him mountain climbing. We needed 3 years of homeschooling to where we could do that. He was bullied terribly in elementary school. So I have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of schools. But in high school, he went into the public high school. He didn't have to have a para leading him around. He graduated as an honor student, and it was a big success for him as well. I am 100% for vouchers, but I have talked to homeschoolers, and they aren't. They don't want the city or the state involved in their education, some. So what I support is 4 avenues. You have public school, you have private school, you have homeschool, and you have those that want vouchers. I think the money is coming out of taxpayers. These are taxpayers. Why are you not supporting their kids' education?
Bobbie?
I believe that vouchers exist where public schools are deficient. For the most part, we have a fantastic school system. I'm not in favor of vouchers that dilute or take away from our teachers, from our system, and from our school. I do believe that families and parents have the right to make that decision for what they want to do at their own expense, but I believe that taxpayer dollars need to be directed to the public school.
Yeah.
I believe every parent has the right to choose where they want to send their child, whether it's they want to homeschool them or send them to private school or send them to public school. In fact, I have a former student from Flandreau who is an author and has written a whole K-12 series, Grammar Galaxy, some of you might be familiar with the title, for homeschool parents. There are some very good resources out there. However, and this is my big red line, public dollars do not fund private or homeschooled students. That's it. And what they did in Pierre this year with their backdoor voucher program by increasing that little tax incentive to the insurance companies for $1.5 million more in their backdoor voucher program, AKA scholarships, was wrong. You took public tax money out of the general fund of the state and you're giving it as scholarships for private schooling. That is wrong. The accountability is not there for that public schools have. The accountability for public schools is not there for private and homeschooled students. And as Mark spoke to, it should be there if you're going to take public dollars, but no public dollars to private and homeschooled students, period.
Okay. The next question, I'm going to combine 2 because we've got a lot of questions and not much time. How would you improve reading, math, and science proficiency in the district? How can you help students in the district prepare STEM-oriented careers? Do I have a volunteer to take that one first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay, start.
All right, so I learned something called Krashen's input hypothesis, and it talks about how you provide comprehensible input that's slightly above what somebody understands. I use this not just teaching English, but also teaching my science class. So I'm teaching in a Brooklyn school that has 25% of the kids are homeschooled. I mean, not homeschooled, they're homeless. Sorry, my bad. And they had one of the highest rates of free lunch, which meant they were very poor. And a lot of these kids, it's a very dangerous neighborhood. We had somebody knifed or shot every single year from our school. And a lot of them don't even come to school with books or pencils or anything because they'll get stolen if they go outside with a book bag. So it was a challenging situation. But like I said, I was able to take the kids in my class that were at the bottom of New York City performance on the 8th grade test. And by the 10th grade test, they scored in the top 6% of New York City, which includes some of the best high schools in the country: Stuyvesant, Bronx High School of Science, Brooklyn Tech. And the way I did it was using Krashen's input hypothesis. The way I took my 2 kids who spoke Chinese, didn't speak a word of English, and in 3 years they're fluent in English, Krashen's input hypothesis. I believe he's the basis of the science of reading program. He came out in the 70s. They've been testing this for 50 years. I don't understand why it took so long for the school system to adopt this, but it's a very effective approach, and it can work. The concept, the theory, the principle works in any subject. You can do it in the same thing in math. So this is how I applied it. I can't explain it in 90 seconds, but there's definitely, we can take care of this. My kids, when they got here, in 1 year, they went from 0 to 6th grade readers. So I'm pretty sure we take kids who are not proficient in 4th grade, and over the 5th grade, we'll definitely get them to the 6th grade level.
Could you say slowly that acronym?
Krashen, that's his last name, Krashen, input hypothesis. You can Google it, it's very easy, pop right up.
Thank you. I haven't ever asked anybody to spell anything.
Huh?
I've never asked anyone to spell something in a form. Okay. Pat?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is where it goes back to how I started tonight is with 3rd graders. When we're spending $1 billion as a state to invest in new prisons and teach people behind bars, we missed the opportunity when they were in 3rd grade. People who plan for prisons and forecast prisons use the number of 3rd grade students who are proficient in reading to predict how many beds we're going to need in the future to incarcerate people. If we don't find the way to bring kids forward so that they can read, that they can do basic math, we do a lot of things to move kids forward, but we've got to be proficient by the time they're in 3rd grade to get to a 3rd grade level, to continue on to be successful. One of the things I said this weekend at a forum was that teachers don't leave teaching because of money. Money is the final straw for teachers to leave. It's behaviors in their classrooms. It's the other things that we expect teachers to do. We have to continue to make classrooms safe. We have to allow teachers to teach. The district has done a good job of starting with behavior specialists. It's getting administrators out of their office. It's helping those teachers deal with what kids are doing to be ready to teach. We can have the best teachers in the world, but if the kids don't behave in the classroom and they can't teach, what good does it do?
Yes. Mark?
K through 3 reading's been the superintendent will tell you, because I bug her all the time, but it's kind of my mission, because if you don't read by 3rd grade, you just slip further and further as it goes. It's all kinds of literature that proves that. So we started a SIPS program within title schools, and that's a reading program where the kids get pulled out, and they'll maybe be a small group, and they get a lot of intense time to read, help from the other kids. They have reading instructors, people that got a college degree in reading. And that's huge, but it has to be science-based. So it has to be like research-based, science-based, and it's got to be phonics, fluency, vocab, and comprehension. When you get to 3rd grade, you stop learning to read, and then you start reading to learn. And that's where the disconnect comes, because those kids, if they can't keep up with their reading, their ability to read and learn, even math, all the subjects, reading's the key. So I'm hoping that we can improve our scores. There's a lot of people out there trying to do it. And for me, when we talk about test scores, one thing we forget, we want to look at growth, okay? You were here, we want to get you here. How can we do that? How can we make the growth happen? And that's the thing we have to accomplish.
Gail Swenson?
So I'm going to try to address the question directly. How do we make the change? There's a lot I could say about test scores and teaching and that kind of thing, but I'm going to first start with how do we make the change? So as board members, I think it would be incumbent upon us to talk to our teachers, to talk to our instructional EAs, to talk to the children's instructional team, because some kids have more than a teacher and more than a classroom aide. They might also have therapists involved and other folks involved, special ed folks involved in their education. Why don't we talk to the people in the buildings that actually work with the kids and say, what tools do you need? What support can I give you as a board member? What program is working for you or not working? What changes do we need to make? Is there something we can do in policy? Is there something in the budget? Is there something that we need to do? I know it's a little dangerous when I start talking middle school because that wasn't my cup of tea, but I do know of a couple of programs that worked very well in our reading, and that was Read 180 and System 44. And we have some folks actually sitting in this room that were specialists in those areas. And the growth that kids made were phenomenal. And Mark is right. When we look at those test scores, you don't see the growth. You see where a child ended up. A child might grow in reading coming into 7th grade. They might be a 4th grade student in reading. You know, that instructional team might work with that student. They might grow to be 6th grade and 6 months, and they're still going to show up on the test as below grade average. We don't measure growth. So we need to talk to our teachers and say, how can we support you? What do you need? What are the tools? What are the programs? That's how we work on this issue.
Thank you. Bobbie Tibbetts?
Yeah, I agree with that. I've actually spent some time having conversations with teachers and with administrators, and they're seeing the number of kids that are entering school age not able to read. And as everybody said, once these kids come, it's hard for them to get caught back up. I loved how you said the learning to read and then reading to learn. But I think you're exactly right. It's understanding what the resources are. The school has interventionists, and we do have reading programs, and they're seeing excellent results. I think the question is how can we scale that, and how can we continue to invest in that, because it matters. I was having a conversation with the principal, and reading is where it kind of starts as an issue, but nobody wants to sit in a room and be the kid that can't read or be the kid that's called on. And so when that happens, the response is sometimes to act out, and that then creates behavior problems. So you see this issue that then continues to grow because you can't read, and then you're creating issues in the classroom. So it just compounds. And I think that's, you said it, it's in the programs, and continuing to invest in that, and potentially even the pre-K, looking at how do we grow it.
This one would be a quick yes or no. We'll start with Pat Starr. Would you favor changes to current school district policy regarding selection of library books?
Read that for me one more time, because I want to make sure if I'm gonna stick to yes or no, I got to make sure that I
Would you
understand which-
favor changes to current school district policy regarding selection of library books?
No.
Okay, Mark?
Kind of. But I would say slightly, because we have when you order 18,000 books and they're off a national whatever, I don't know how a librarian could do that. I do know this. Yes or no? We have a policy, and I'll talk about that later if another question comes up.
Okay, yeah.
No.
Bobbie?
Well, I'm here to push buttons, so I'm going to say no, but just as you said, there's a policy in place and parents can act on that. They can help ensure what their kids are checking out or right. So my answer is no, but parents are there to have oversight.
Okay. Stuart. Oh
Thank
my
you.
Gracious, I'm sorry twice.
I'm going to agree with Bobbie on that no, but the problem with the policy they have right now is, let's say a parent has an issue with the book, they bring it to the board agrees with them, the policy says we remove the book. But the law says that you're not allowed to put certain books out for minors to be looking at. So there's no accountability to whoever was responsible for that book being there in the first place. There should be accountability. At the very least, there should be a write-up.
Okay. Final question, and then we'll go to the final round. What steps have been taken by the district to implement and utilize the new social studies standards? We'll start with Bobbie.
So my understanding is the standards are not implemented yet. I think that's actually going to be the focus of this board, is understanding what those standards are, understanding what our teachers need, and then understanding how do we move forward. It's a standard, so is it working, and how do we then move forward with the decision that's been made? I've actually had a lot of questions on what I believe in the social studies, and that decision's happened. I think where we have to focus is how do we support implementation, and then how do we move forward beyond that?
Okay, Gail?
It's right, the fall of '25 is when that new social studies standard is implemented. And I see that they're going to have some workshops on that. I was not a proponent of the new social studies standards. I think that there is expectations in there that is way above grade level for kids, but that's here and done because it is done. So the question is, how do we implement it as a district? I think that's going to take a lot of conversations with the teachers, with the curriculum experts, to go through it and say, okay, how can we follow Board of Education policy and at the same time weave this in with what we're currently teaching and trust our content experts and the people who teach in those grade levels to know what really needs to be taught at those levels. So I think it's going to be more of a marrying of the new standards with the current standards. The other thing that I'm very concerned about is curriculum materials, because with this new social studies standard, there's one vendor currently for the book or books and materials. So instead of having an option of a few different publishers, you're going to get one publisher, and that gives me a little bit of heartburn. But we do have to look forward to what's coming now. Now we have social studies done. Where are we going with language arts? Where are we going with math? Where are we going with science? Because we go through the cycle, and every 7 years, there's a curriculum study. And since the Board of Ed has changed dramatically, and educators have been replaced with non-educators, it's going to make a big difference in what changes they make to curriculum.
Marc?
I taught social studies for, I don't know, 38 years. And we always had standards that were developed by educators, college professors, and some of the people in the State Board of Ed. So we operated under that guise. Here's a standard about the Civil War. And we pulled out things that we needed to cover. When I look at this, especially for elementary kids, it's like, oh gosh, I don't want to be a second grade teacher and have to have my kids memorize terms. And memorization is good, but that's really not a good indicator of science-based teaching, in my opinion. So I like where we could teach things like, this is what happened, why did it happen, what was the result, and where are we now? What I see in those standards is, can you memorize the preamble of the Constitution? Good information, should be exposed to, should know it. but there's a lot of things in between those lines that need to be taught. So I don't know how we came up with all the terms, all the vocabulary. I don't know where that came from, obviously from Hillsdale College, I suppose. Am I right on that? I don't know, I could be wrong, but that's my impression. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying things that they mention or talk about or whatever are bad, but I think it's more important to be able to teach kids not what to think, but how to think. Okay? Memorization doesn't really teach that, in my opinion. So that's where I'm at.
Good. Pat?
Well, I'm a little bolder. I'm willing to say it is bad. When we interject politics into public education, which there's always some form of politics involved, but we've turned it over to politicians rather than educators who make up the board, it's wrong. It's not going to be good for our students. The amount of non-educators, and to start over because you weren't happy with the political results the first time around, so you decided to just throw everybody off, put a new committee together. For folks who spend their time telling us the best governance is local, but then they take it away from us at a state level, I mean, it's a little bit of hypocrisy. We have a standard. We'll put it in place in the district. We'll take the best of it and make it work. But at the same time, it is scary. But what we need to continue to do is be part of an open, transparent policy that gets people involved. We've got to get to the point where this room should be twice the size with the number of people who are interested in what we're doing in our district. We shouldn't get to that point where people say, I don't have kids in school anymore, so it's not important to me. I have kids in private school. I have this or I have that. The future of our community, our state, and our world is how we educate our children and where we move forward with them. So you need to be active. You can't complain about the system if you don't be part of the system and you don't come regularly.
Okay, Mark?
He already worked.
I'm going, Stuart.
Okay. My biggest frustration when I was in New York City was they never let the highly effective teachers train us in professional development. We all were tested. I mean, our kids were tested. We were all graded based on how our kids did on the test. The city knew who were the most effective teachers. Why don't you get those teachers to help the rest of us? I had to figure out how to motivate my students. I had to figure out how to use statistical analysis. The training is ridiculous. It's a bunch of ideology, 20-plus something-year-olds coming from some special organization from the NEA that's telling us nothing that will help us with classroom management or teaching or anything. So the simplest way to enact something that's difficult is you take your highly effective teachers in social studies. That's not me. I'm not an expert in everything. We got to get our experts. I've met some really excellent teachers in Sioux Falls. There are some very good teachers here, and you have them be the standard bearers that lead the way. That's the solution. Let me share a little story. I hope you don't hit me with the time. I was taking my son up a mountain. He couldn't, within 5 minutes, he couldn't walk. There was snow melting on top of ice. It was too slippery for him. It was just impossible. Now, they teach us this practice about differentiation based on the students, and what they generally mean is you give this student something simpler, easier to do. In that case, we would have taken them to a little hill, climb up there, pat them on the back, and say, "Good job." That's not what the kids want. They want to be the same as everybody else. I took my belt off, I tied it to my pack, and my son could hold the belt, and then he followed me up the mountain. We went to the top. We need the highly effective teachers to show us how to deal with these things. You think, oh, this is, instead, I got the same kind of mandates everybody else did, and I just figured out how to make it work for my students. Thank you.
Thank you. I've called on each of you, right? I'm starting on the right-hand side because twice I goofed up with you. This is the closing. Starting on my right, and we wish you all very well, but we'll do this in the reverse of the opening statements. So we'll start with Stuart.
Okay. Parents and voters want real solutions. They don't want to keep paying more and more money every year while nothing gets better, rather it only gets worse. AI is making homeschool a very real option for more parents. If public school does not adjust immediately, we will be like a dying coral reef. The school board must take the lead to prepare our students for a career in which AI is going to be an intrinsic part of success and equip them to stand against the kind of deception that AI using deepfakes can do. Central to that goal will be equipping 100% of our students to read fluently. Now, if elected, my focus is going to be on 4 key initiatives to improve education. Enhancing professional development by identifying our highly effective K-12 educators in Sioux Falls and utilizing their expertise to provide professional development. That's why teachers are leaving. No one's helping them. This classroom's a mess. They need help, and they need it from our most effective teachers. Second of all, statistical tools for exams. This will assist teachers and principals in effective curriculum planning and emphasizing core concepts and optimizing time management. Number 3, maximizing return on investment. I want to leverage the expertise of highly effective teachers. I saw money wasted out the wazoo in New York City for stuff that did not help at all, and they didn't give us money for stuff that would have helped us a lot. Number 4, preparing for the impact of AI. It's going to take all of our highly effective teachers. I'm not talking about talking to everybody. You're just going to get chaos. Pick the top 10%, the people who are professionals, the career teachers, and we'll figure it out. That's basically, we need to involve the best teachers in Sioux Falls to be the standard bearers. That's how you will improve. You take your top 10%, they help everybody else, we'll move in the right direction. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Excuse me. First of all, I'd like to thank the sponsors tonight, the Sioux Falls Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters, for having us here this evening. I would have preferred a 3-hour session, but an hour seems to be enough for everyone by the time we're done, because we never get enough chance to really dig into some of the real issues. There are 3 things that I'm running for the Sioux Falls School Board, and they're key. It's openness, transparency, and fiscal responsibility. We can continue to ask for additional dollars, but we have to squeeze every nickel. We have to make sure we don't have the ability to waste money. So we need programs and the schools in a way that we use each dollar effectively. One of the things that you've seen if you follow my career over the last 8 years in public service is sometimes I get a little excited, but I always ask tough questions and I expect tough answers. And sometimes holding people accountable is the thing that we expect most from our elected officials. It's tough. There's going to be some very tough decisions over the next 2 years that we're going to have to make as a school district. But the bottom line is our students and what's best to educate our kids. And I know we're surrounded by great people who want just the best for our kids, but they expect us to do it in a fiscally responsible way. They expect us to have open and transparent conversations with them. They expect us to be out front and talk. People want to be heard from their government. They want to be able to think they were heard so that we don't have to agree, but we have to be heard. And I'm going to break one of the rules because I know there were no props tonight, but I wanted to share my favorite book. And it's banned in some places. Dr. Seuss has its own challenges, but we want kids to read. We want them to find things that are important to them. And I thought I hated graphic novels until one of my foster kids, it's what got him to grade level. So thank you, and thank you all for taking the time to be here tonight.
Thank you. Mark?
There's 3 priorities, and I've already talked about reading. The next one that I don't know how we can fix it. It frustrates me. Attendance. It's ridiculous. And that is a huge, huge impact on learning. Because I don't know about you guys, when I wasn't there, I wasn't learning. And we have elementary kids missing 50 days, 60 days. Now, that's not common practice, but it's a practice. We got a federal grant to try and improve attendance, bought some vans, and I don't know if it's even improved it. And I'm not saying that I think it's a good effort, whatever, but we have to get kids in school. I don't know how to do it. I do not know how to do it, because where does that come from? You know and I know. The other thing is school safety. That's the one that sometimes keeps me awake at night. And we have, I think, good protocols. We have hired good security people, knowledgeable people, but it scares me. And I'm not trying to frighten you, okay? It scares me, but we have to constantly improve our protocols, our safety. Here's the thing I tell you, tell everybody you know. If you hear something, okay, if you see something, and this is what we tell our kids and our staff, you've got to say something. We need you to say something. As far as, and I was just gonna talk a little bit about, we have instructional coaches in Sioux Falls. And we've taken those people, we've trained them, and they travel around the district. So I don't know, I've never worked with one, but I know the good ones do some great stuff. And I think they're all pretty good. So that would be my answer to that.
Gail Swenson.
I appreciate this opportunity very much, afforded by our sponsors. And now you've all had a little bit of a chance to get to know all of us candidates. I appreciate those of you who came here tonight and those of you who are listening at home. And I appreciate my colleagues at the table with me here tonight. I think the thought I would like to leave with you all is I have the experience of district leadership and the knowledge to operate a school district. I've done the work. I've worked collaboratively with board members to make plans and visions, and I've carried them out. We've worked through budgets and opt-outs and legal issues and difficult decisions. I've successfully communicated with staff and stakeholders where the district is and where we're going. I understand the role of school board members, and I have worked with a team of very innovative, forward-thinking, and awesome board members. My goal, if I would be so fortunate to be elected, is to be as committed and as good as those board members are, because it's together that we can make a difference for our students and their educations. My commitment to the Sioux Falls School District is strong. My commitment to being a board member in this district is strong. And I think I'm showing that because I've been the only candidate here to come to all the school board meetings and work sessions since I've announced my candidacy. With the exception of Mr. Murren, of course, who is here at every meeting, so.
No choice.
I'm truly interested in this position. I'm truly interested in what the board is doing. I'm truly interested in the direction of this school district. And I'm truly interested in learning all I can learn to be the best board member I can be. So again, I thank you all for being here. I would appreciate your vote on April 9th to bring your voice to the board table. Thank you very much.
Bobbie Tibbetts.
See how that works, Mark? You push the button. Just kidding. I too want to thank the sponsors, and I want to thank everybody in here for coming, for caring, for asking questions. What I hope to accomplish in this is transparency, outcomes, and accountability. I said this before, we have a great school system with great teachers and great people. The district is committed to providing high-quality education for all students, and that is something we can celebrate. I am proud to send my kids to Sioux Falls Public School. I do want to be a part of digging into understanding our challenges and the areas where we can improve, and ultimately, as a board, find solutions. In doing so, I personally seek to improve transparency around the decision-making process and to communicate the gaps and also the solutions. What makes me an attractive candidate is I'm a mother of two in the school system. I'm a person of action. I may not have the answer right away, but I will study the materials. I will read up on the issues. I will engage with fellow board members in conversation. I will come to the meetings prepared and ready, and I will listen, I will learn, and I will lead.
That ends our closings, but I would like to tell you that I know there are almost 26,000 children in our school district. And when I was on the school board, there was 1,000 per grade level. we need to send to the polls on April 9th at least 26,000 voters who care about the students in this school district. The percentages are abysmal of the people who vote in this election. There's nothing else to carry it. It's a school board election and a city council one. There's no big national voting going on. I hope everyone in this room can bring 1,000 people to vote. Good luck. We wish good luck to all our candidates in the upcoming election. We encourage you all to vote. And in addition, we'd like to thank the school district for allowing us to use this space over time, and the League of Women Voters for such great volunteers. And we thank you, the audience, for giving voice to issues and concerns. If you're really a political junkie, tomorrow night you can join the League of Women Voters and the city council candidates in Carnegie Library, the old Carnegie Library at 11th, right, and Dakota, 6:30 to 7:30, and it's a much bigger group that'll be speaking tomorrow night. If anyone is interested in joining the League of Women Voters, those ladies in the back row over there will be glad to tell you how easy it is to join and how much fun we have, but we have serious educational issues to deal with in our town. Good night.